Hi everyone, and welcome to Tips and Tricks with NetBrain. Today we'll be talking about automated network problem diagnosis, where NetBrain is your first response engineer. Today's agenda will be 20 minutes and I'll spend most of the time on the demo. I'll just spend a couple of minutes talking about how we diagnose network problems today and how NetBrain can up-level that through automation. Just a little about me. I'm a product evangelist here at NetBrain, and prior to that I was a senior network engineer for over 10 years. Alright, so based on our research and experience with customers, we've learned that typical large enterprises have thousands of tickets every month, and 95% of them are repetitive. So either you or your team has solved a similar problem before. And if it's repetitive, that means it can be automated. So what we at NetBrain want to do is we want to empower you guys to troubleshoot issues manually just one time and then automate the diagnosis. Another thing we've learned is that 3 out of 4 engineers rely solely on command line, and there's very little use of automation. And if it's used, it's usually scripting and for deployments, but not for automated diagnosis. So what that means is that every time a network problem arises, it's troubleshooted and diagnosed manually from the beginning, with ping, trace route, before getting into routing, QoS, etc. And this results in a very high mean time to repair, or as we network engineers know, high mean time to innocence. So if you could look at the diagram on the right, you'll see that we have a ticketing system. It could be ServiceNow or BMC Remedy. And once a ticket is created, it'll automatically trigger NetBrain to take action. And NetBrain will do 2 things. It'll create a map of the problem area, and it'll produce a possible diagnosis of what the problem could be. So in this circumstance, we're allowing NetBrain to be the first response engineer before a help desk engineer ever touches the ticket. This will allow much lower mean time to repair and mean time to innocence. So let's get into our demo. I'll be showing 2 things. You can see here from the image, this will be the automated map that NetBrain will produce, and on the right you'll see the diagnosis results. Basically you'll see things in green and red would be possible problems, and greens would be checks that NetBrain performed automatically, but everything looks good. So let's get into NetBrain. So let's start with ServiceNow. This is a ticket that I'm creating. I just have that the Toronto office is experiencing choppy WebEx meetings. So quality issues. Let me put a caller. And I'm gonna hit submit. So what I'm gonna demo is that ServiceNow will automatically trigger NetBrain to take action once I hit submit. And in less than a minute, NetBrain will produce an automated map of the problem area and run 4 specific diagnosis checks, just like you would as an engineer: ping, checking interface errors, routing, QoS, and this is all based on the knowledge NetBrain gained from past similar tickets. And then NetBrain will send these diagnosis results back into the ServiceNow ticket. And there will be no waiting time. You won't have your ticket created sitting idle for hours until it's assigned to an engineer, but rather NetBrain will take action immediately once the ticket has been submitted. So let's go to our tickets. So this is the ticket that I just created. Couple things to note. What NetBrain really cares about is the short description. This is where NetBrain tries to figure out what type of ticket this may be. So NetBrain will parse this and look for keywords like Toronto. So that's the location of the problem, and WebEx, and also choppy. So based on this information in short description, To NetBrain, this looks like it might be a voice problem, and therefore NetBrain will carry out certain diagnosis steps that are assigned to voice tickets. So as we can see, there's a NetBrain automation tag down here, and here is where the results will be sent back to ServiceNow based on the automation that NetBrain does. As you can see, it popped up. This is real time, guys. So now we see greens and reds. We see that the ping latency is green, that's good. Oops. And we see that the input our errors is not incrementing, so that looks good as well. However, we see two potential problems, a routing and a QoS problem. So this already, just in less than a minute, we have an idea what the potential problem could be. So let's open it up in NetBrain. Let me just go back to ServiceNow for a second. So we have two things we can open in NetBrain, and we can also open in the portal. The portal is used if you don't have a user account or a license to NetBrain. So like maybe some other team or even external clients, they can access and view all the troubleshooting. It's a read-only access without having a login to NetBrain. All right, so here we are in NetBrain. We see two things that are important. We see a map and we see the diagnosis. So let's look at the map. Now, when you're troubleshooting an issue as an engineer, the first thing you want to know is what devices are in question. So in this case, we can see that NetBrain automatically produced a map of a path from the Toronto office to the WebEx server. Now, this is not a trace route, right? This is a sophisticated path analysis that NetBrain performed, and I'll show you. So NetBrain understands the control plane of all these devices. It could be a switch, it could be a router, it could be a cloud device, it could be a load balancer. NetBrain is going to look at the VRFs, it's going to look at NATing, it's going to look at layer 3, layer 2, access control lists, IPsec VPNs, GRE tunnels, you name it. And so NetBrain is basically going to build a path using all this knowledge, and it's not a trace route, but it's taking into consideration everything the device would take into consideration when determining what the next hop is. So we have our map. Now we have the diagnosis. So let's look on the right here. We see a couple of things. We see that ServiceNow triggered NetBrain to act through an API call. We see that NetBrain considers this issue to be a voice ticket. NetBrain created the map that we see. And now we see the diagnosis. So there are 4 checks that NetBrain did. 2 of them are in green, 2 of them are in red. And this is the same troubleshooting that an engineer built into NetBrain, what they would normally do if a voice issue happens. So let's click on the ping latency. So NetBrain, for all the devices on this map, does a ping and check its latency. As we can see, everything is green, so no problems with latency. Then let's go to interface errors. NetBrain is looking at the input errors and checking if it's incrementing. It's okay if there's numbers, we just want to make sure that it's not incrementing. Again, everything is green, so this check was fine. Now here, let's look at the reds. So we have a route change. So we have red, so we know that some route was changed. So if we want to visualize that, one of the things we can do, we can go on the left here, and we have something called a golden path. And this is the path that we've told NetBrain is the path that the traffic is supposed to go. So let's draw that on the map. And the golden path is this one here that's in green, and the path that the traffic is currently taking is in blue. So we can see that the traffic is supposed to go through MPLS, but it's actually going through the DMVPN. So this might be the cause of the WebEx quality issues. But we have another diagnosis check. That's about the QoS policy. So let's click it. All right. So this is a policy map called QoS, and there's a class video that is being policed. And we can see that the prior value, police value, was actually 4 megs, but now someone has set it to 512K. So this is the root cause of the problem. It's a voice quality issue based on a change of the QoS policy. So let me recap what we've done here, right? Without help desk or anyone getting involved, no human involved, a ticket was created in ServiceNow, right? We submitted it, and then ServiceNow triggered NetBrain automatically to take action. And in less than a minute, you saw it in real time, you saw it pop up. In less than a minute, NetBrain was able to produce a map of the problem area. And again, it's not a trace route, but a sophisticated path analysis. And then NetBrain ran 4 specific diagnosis checks, right? It's the similar thing we would do if we were engineers. We would do a ping test, we would check for incrementing interface errors, we would check for routing changes and QoS. And this is all based on the knowledge that NetBrain gained from past similar tickets, right? And these greens and reds is the same results that are sent right back into ServiceNow. So again, there's no waiting time. Once you submit the ticket is not sitting idle until it's assigned to an engineer. So now you're able to see that if 95% of the tickets are repetitive, you can automate the diagnosis of 95% of the tickets and let NetBrain be your first response engineer and do all this diagnosis work. So by the time a human gets involved, without even opening NetBrain, they would have an idea that maybe it's a routing change or maybe it's a QoS policy change. So let's jump back to our PowerPoint. All right, guys, so that's the end of the demo. I hope you understood the concept of automating problem diagnosis. It's very powerful, will reduce the mean time to repair. Also, it'll just make it so much easier for your help desk to troubleshoot. And if they can troubleshoot and resolve, then there's less escalations to senior engineers. So I have some resources here for you. We have a solution brief that explains a bit more about automating problem diagnosis with ServiceNow by integrating our 2 systems. And you can go to the resources page and download that for free. This is also applicable to managed service providers. If anyone on this webinar is a managed service provider, you can still automate diagnosis if you have multiple clients. And this is a really good differentiating factor if you are an MSP. We have some really great content for you on YouTube, how-to videos, we have demos, we got webinars. These webinars that I do are on YouTube as well. Let me show you our channel so you can go there to learn more. You can search in YouTube for NetBrain or go to this URL, and this is our channel. If you go to the home page, you'll see what I'm showing you here, okay? So under uploads, you'll see all our recent uploads. Under what NetBrain can do for you is a collection of playlists about our value propositions, such as automating problem diagnosis, visualization, automation for change management, automating security and compliance, and much more. Then we have this particular playlist. You see broken out into different videos. You can scroll to the right to see more. We also have the visualization playlist broken out. And if anyone on this webinar is actually a little bit newer to NetBrain, I would recommend these 2 videos about dynamic maps for your network. It's an analogy between Google Maps and NetBrain. It's a really great analogy that kind of makes you understand the value that NetBrain brings, just like how Google Maps totally revolutionized traffic and transportation as opposed to paper road atlases. Then there's another good video about our path analysis, like I was mentioning, it's not a trace route. This is a really good one that shows you what we can do for pathing. We have some testimonials from customers. These are fun, and it's an engineer speaking and how NetBrain has benefited them in their organization, for example, for change management, for network assessments, for MSPs and things like that. We have some demo videos. We have a couple of the tips and tricks, the ones that I did before. They're uploaded here so you can watch them. And we have some deep dive webinars. These are a little bit more deeper into automation, has a little bit more theory. But if you want to understand more about the framework and the bigger picture of NetBrain, these are really great for that. They're longer, maybe 30 minutes to an hour. So feel free, guys, to subscribe to our channel. We're always uploading, and you can learn more without waiting for our webinars. You can go here and just watch the content, and it'll help you to start to use NetBrain more in your organization. All right, and then lastly, if you want to speak to one of our NetBrain experts in order to learn more about automating problem diagnosis or any other topic where NetBrain can benefit your organization, you can go to this URL here and someone will get back to you. If you guys have your smartphones, you can also scan these QR codes. They correspond to each of these links if you want to go there directly. All right, so that's the end of our webinar today. I really hope you learned something new. Today's topic is a little bit different, I know. If there's one takeaway I want you to take away, is that we can automate diagnosis of problems. We don't have to start from scratch troubleshooting every time a problem arises, but we can troubleshoot one time and then automate those procedures, like I said, ping, trace route, QoS, routing. And so the next time a problem happens, NetBrain will jump into action and automatically do those diagnosis steps. So by the time a human gets involved, you already have all this data captured and all this analysis done for you from the moment that the ticket was submitted. So time for questions. If you guys have any questions, please type them in the chat and we're going to answer them for you.